Hello and welcome to the Joy News Desk. We're broadcasting live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We're also live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Coming up this hour, President Akufo-Addo to deal with Boko conflict head-on.
Government has in the past year undertaken a number of measures, including the establishment of a special Boko task force and the intensification of engagements with the factions for the resolution of the chieftaincy dispute.
Details as he promises to marshal all resources available to execute the task. Also ahead this morning, electricity tariffs down by 6.5% for some residential customers. But what is the rush now? We'll tell you more. The NDC to announce a running mate soon, more as the party's Deputy General Secretary says the public is to expect a name that will shake the foundations of the nation. Who will that be? We'll find out when the time comes. We have details of these and many other stories coming up in the next 1 hour. Don't go anywhere. Hello again. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has reduced marginally the electricity tariff for residential consumers, but no change in the prices paid by lifeline consumers as well as residential consumers within the consumption bracket of 0 to 300 kilowatts. PURC says the tariff reduction of 6.5% should bring some relief to residential consumers within the consumption bracket of 301 kilowatts and above. Here are excerpts of that statement. And it says the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission wishes to inform consumers of electricity and water that there has been a review of the existing tariffs to take effect from April 1st to June 30th, 2024. It continues by saying that the Commission, in undertaking this review, also considered the competitiveness of industries and the general living conditions of the Guinean. Having considered all the underlying factors, the Commission wishes to announce that there will be no change in the electricity tariffs for lifetime consumers as well as for residential consumers within the consumption bracket of 0 to 300 kilowatts. There will, however, be an average reduction in electricity tariffs of 6.56% for residential consumers within the consumption bracket of 301 kilowatts and above. Right, let's get talking and go onto the telephone lines and speak to Dr. Akufo-Addo. He's the head of research at the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. Welcome to the program. I want to find out from you what went into these calculations and the subsequent decision.
So thank you for having me, and I hope you're doing well.
I am. Thank you.
Great. The quarterly tariff reviews are hinged on 4 decisions. Basically, the exchange rate, the inflation, the generation need, and the fuel price. Okay. The last time when we did the tariff, the exchange rate, and if you look at the generation mix, we used 32% for hydro and then 68% for thermal. Now this time around, we're using 35% hydro and 65% thermal. The inflation rate has also dropped. The last time we used about 40% for inflation. This time around we are using about 28%. So all these parameters have seen a downward trend. The gas price that we used the last time has not changed from the one that we are using now. So these factors have aided the tariff to be reduced.
Okay. What is peculiar is that you did not, effect the same reduction for lifeline consumers. First of all, who qualifies to be a lifeline consumer, and why didn't you effect that change on them as well?
Well, for lifeline consumer, you should be consuming between 0 and 30 kilowatt hours of electricity every month. Once you go beyond the 30 kilowatt hours, you are no longer a lifeliner. Now, the lifeliners are already being subsidized and compensated. So, in the wisdom of the commissioners, this time round, if there's any gain, other consumers in the consumption bracket should also benefit from the gains that are accrued.
And do we know the number of people that fall within this bracket?
Of the lifeliners?
Yes.
The lifeliners are 9 million. They're about 700 or so thousand.
And then will the public really benefit from this, since majority are likely to fall outside this bracket?
Yes, the public is likely to benefit from it, because if you take the Ghanaian community, you realize that most people live in what we call multiple dwellings. In Ghana, we call it compound houses. And if you put their consumption together, they are in the bracket of 300 and above. Most of them are on a single meter. If you put all their consumption in a household together, they are over 300 kilowatt hours. So this reduction of 6.56% will really bring about a relief to those people in that particular category.
A lot of concerns have been raised about who qualifies to be a lifeline consumer. For example, if I stay alone, what items do I need to have in my house to be able to, classify it as a lifeline consumer?
For lifeline, I should be using, let's say, 3 LED bulbs for about 8 hours in a month. And for about, then you use 75 watts and for about 4 hours a day for 30 days. You use one TV. You use, let's say, one iron. You iron for about 4 hours in a month. So basically, just to cater for the poorest of the poor in the society, those who cannot really afford anything at all. That's what the lifeline is supposed to cover.
And looking at the figures, it means that a lot of people, have much more than just a bulb in your room. That means, very few people fall within the lifeline bracket, right?
Well, if you go to the rural areas, you realize a lot more people fall in the lifeline bracket. If you take some of these rural communities, especially in the northern sector of the country, most people fall in the lifeline bracket. People use less than just a bulb in their room.
Okay.
People don't even iron at all. So those people fall in the lifeline bracket.
We know that you've been doing a quarterly review of tariffs. Does that mean that going forward you're going to peg it against inflation and other prices on the market to see whether you're going to increase or reduce electricity and water prices?
Well, those are the factors which are not controlled by the service provider. They are beyond the reach of the utility service provider. The utility service provider does not have control over it. They don't have control over inflation.
Okay.
So these are the factors that we consider, because those ones, they don't have control over it. If you take the gas price, they don't have control over the gas price. So for a quarterly review, these are the factors that we look at.
Okay, thank you very much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Let's bring you more stories today, as President Akufo-Addo has highlighted the Boko conflict as a paramount security concern for the nation, vowing to employ all available means to address it. Speaking in Parliament in his State of the Nation address, the President described as unfortunate the killings that is destabilizing the peace in Boko. He said the Boko has become a sport for mischief makers and extremists. Let's listen to the President.
Mr. Speaker, I must make special mention of the troubles in Boko. Thriving and dynamic town is being reduced to a wasteland of destruction and distrust. We're spending money and energy that would have been better spent on developing the needs of Boko, providing security to keep brothers and sisters from killing each other. To speak, what should concern all of us, and not just the people of Boko, is that in its current state, Boko is an alluring magnet to mischief makers and extremists operating a few kilometers away from the border. In a bid to find a lasting solution to the conflict, in the past year, undertaken a number of measures, including the establishment of a special Boko task force and the intensification of engagements with the factions for the resolution of the chieftaincy dispute. On the recommendation of the Upper East Regional and National Security Councils, 4 radio stations that have been broadcasting incendiary language and propagating hate speech have been shut down by the National Communications Authority. The Chief Justice, for her part, has also recently established specialized courts in Accra and Kumasi to deal expeditiously with criminal matters emanating from the local conflict. Government is determined to do all it can to ensure that there's security in every inch of the territory of our country. But it is also very much up to the citizens to help create the needed atmosphere.
So that was President Akufo-Addo during his address to the nation in Parliament yesterday. Let's get talking on the back of this and go to Zuma and speak to Dr. Victor Doke. He's a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center. Doc, grateful for your time this morning. What do you make of the measures taken by the president, as mentioned?
One, I think the president and all of us have noticed and recognized the Boko conflict as very pertinent. And as a fact, more say also a threat to the national security and peace of this country. Now, with the president has, elaborated per his SONA address, the right direction. And one, when you look at the court set up by the Chief Justice in Accra and Kumasi to expedite issues or criminal matters when it's brought before the court, is very critical, because it's been noticed that one of the reprisal attacks emanate from the fact that when people have been identified to have perpetrated some crime, the courts or the law does not expedite action. So these people are not sanctioned, and hence those affected or the victims deem it necessary to take the law into their own hands and then retaliate. Now, when you look at the aspect of the closure of the radio stations, it is a step in the right direction, because you cannot have radio stations that are used to inform and educate now allowing its resources to be used for insult or whatever be it is. Now, let's not forget, this is the same thing that happened in Rwanda some time ago, where the radio stations were used to propagate violence against one ethnic faction. Let's go to the Boko Special Task Force. Yes, the task force is there to help keep the peace. It comprises the security and all that. Now, engagements intensified. That is very key. Sustained engagement will help the factions to come together, will iron out the differences, the interests and needs, for the two factions now to agree on a common solution to declare the conflict over. Now, I was hoping that I would hear more of the involvement of civil society, and especially the mandated state agency, the National Peace Council, in resource to undertake A, B, or C. Now, when we look at the role of civil society when it comes to conflict, and especially in Boko region, in the Boko area, it's been found out that civil society organizations, and notably, we have WANEP, we have Builder, who have extensively done works when it comes to facilitating peace building. So I was hoping that some recognition or some mention would be given for them. And then let's look at how the recommendations from the 201 consortium of NGOs will be implemented, because definitely it will come up. The two factions are still holding on to their interests. Now, that recommendations, one being Permanent Secretariat for the Boko Ethnic Peace Committee, the local enforcement agency, that's the BIEPC, that is supposed to be done between the community and the two factions. Let's see how we can resource them. And then implement all the recommendations, and then we can move on forward from there.
There was also the mention of Boko being a place for extremist groups to thrive. Is that really the case? Is that possible?
Yes. In the president's statement, he made mention of the alluring magnet, to mischief and extremists operating in some few kilometers in our neighboring countries. It is very true. Now, research has shown that extremist groups, thrive in the areas of instability. Areas where there's chaos. And when you have this long span conflict, protracted, entrenched like this, it is only a conduit, okay, for some elements, criminal elements, to take advantage of the situation and perpetrate the activities. An example, in 2019, doing my full research there was this armed robbery gang who was engaging the police. Now, the situation is so volatile that any kind of sporadic shootings would deem it as coming from the other sides. So the two sides, that's the Mampusi and the Kusasi, felt that probably their youth were engaging each other, and then they were ready to amass, only for them to implement their local preventive measure, as they call the alert call system, that they had to call and verify from different areas where the shootings were coming from, and then they got the information engaging gang in the shoot.
Dr. Doke, kindly hold on for me. I'll come back to you, but let's also go on Zoom and speak to the Member of Parliament for Boko Central, Mahama Ayariga, who is joining us via Zoom. Mahama Ayariga, welcome to the program. I want to find out from you as well, what do you make of the President's statement concerning events unfolding in Boko?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. We appreciated that the President mentioned our situation in Boko and gave some briefing on additional measures that government is taking to try and then deal with the security situation in Boko. We just pray that those additional measures produce the expected results. What he mentions of additional measures, I can say on authority that there were recommendations that have been made for a very long time.
Right.
Recommendations that if they had heeded to those recommendations and implemented them at a certain point in time, we may not have had the situation deteriorate to the level that they are now. But, better late than never. I just hope that those measures are able to have an impact on the situation now. So I just appeal to all sides in Boko to cooperate and let us work together to try and bring peace to Boko.
Well, Dr. Doke mentioned that there's a need for CSOs to also be brought into the fold to ensure that calm is restored in the area. Do you agree with that?
CSOs in the past have helped all the factions and the sides in the conflict to engage the dialogue. So I believe that the track record of CSOs dictates the necessity of involving them in the process, because, like I said, you can only resolve a dispute by dialoguing. You can't shoot your way to the end of the dispute. You have to engage and dialogue, and CSOs have been helpful in that regard. So I hope that the CSOs will make themselves available, whether government invites them or not, because that is the mandate they have. They form themselves into CSOs for these purposes. So they can get involved, and I believe that those at the forefront of dealing with the issue won't involve them when they express interest.
And then recently there was the situation of the closure of 4 radio stations in Boko. Do you think that was a step in the right direction?
This was a recommendation that was made before the conflict escalated, because observers realized that the incitement on those radio stations are responsible for creating a certain anger that gets expressed in the violent conflict. And so right from the beginning, the Bureau of Security Councils at the regional and municipal levels have recommended to government the closure of those stations, but they have been ignored. Now government has listened to them. Let's hope that it does help. Clearly it's an inconvenience to the population, but we'll have to look at the wider security interest of the place.
Okay. Mahama Ayariga is a Member of Parliament for Boko Central. Thank you very much. Do I still have Dr. Doke on the line?
Yes, my brother.
Okay. Finally, before you go, tell us, it appears that, bringing security or bringing peace and calm to the area has been a very difficult task. What else, apart from bringing CSOs to the area, do we have to do?
Well, thank you very much. I think what we have to do is maintain a sustained engagement. Okay. Now, when you involve eminent people or prominent people to lead negotiations or mediations,
okay,
and you have to give them that opportunity, force them. Okay. And then we need more awareness and education with regards to these two sides to know that the conflict, the violence associated with the conflict will end them nowhere. Development is stalled. People need growth in terms of socio-economic aspects.
Okay.
So you need to voice out the effects of the conflict. Now, let's see how we can also implement measures, drastic measures, that would enable the youth to surrender the weapons that they are keeping in the system.
Okay.
Let's not forget all of these things. But if the youth are still having the weapons with them based on mistrust, then we cannot get anywhere, because any lethal argument would involve them using the weapons, which they know best as a lack of violence, which we cannot have.
Right. Dr. Doke, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. Well, let's head back to Parliament, because the Minority Leader, Dr. Akufo-Addo, says President Akufo-Addo's State of the Nation is incomplete, having failed to touch on the unemployment issue in the country. Well, the latest statistics painted a bleak picture about the country's unemployment situation. But the minority says the president failed to comprehensively announce a plan to tackle the unemployment conundrum. More reactions from the State of the Nation address shortly. But first, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, has a wrap from the event.
The new year in 2025, when a new government is set to assume the reins of power from him. But the president spoke at length. Indeed, he spoke for more than an hour. And some of the key things President Akufo-Addo spoke about had to do with the state of the nation in terms of security. He speaks about how so many countries in the sub-region are witnessing terrorist activities, but Ghana has been spared.
West Africa is under threat of terrorism and violent extremism, rapidly spreading southwards from the Sahel to coastal West Africa. We can no longer take the territorial integrity of our countries for granted. Indeed, many of our neighbors have already fallen victim and lost large portions of their territories to extremist groups. And Ghana, by the grace of the Almighty, is the only coastal state along the Gulf of Guinea that has so far not recorded a terrorist attack.
But the president zooms in on regional conflict, the chieftaincy conflict that he says has the potential of causing some major destabilization in the country.
We continue to have so many chieftaincy and land disputes around the country, which tend to be breeding grounds for internal tensions and destabilization. Mr. Speaker, I must make special mention of the troubles in Boko.
2024 election being on the horizon, the president is assuring that as the executive president, his government will not do anything to jeopardize the name and the democratic reputation of the country.
A lot of the responsibility lies on the Electoral Commission to put the organization in place that will ensure that we have credible elections. Government is doing its part to make the work of the Electoral Commission go smoothly. A lot of responsibility lies on the political parties as well, and I hope that the parties recognize that their credibility is also on the line.
Well, let's stay a while in Parliament, because the Minority Leader, Akufo-Addo, again says the president failed in his responsibility when he did not address the issue of unemployment. Meanwhile, Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo Markin, however, says his side is ready to debate the issues not mentioned by the president.
We are down, but we rise again under the able leadership he is providing and the future which is assured. Mr. Speaker, we are, by the practice of this House, ready to debate Mr. President's message. Considering the situation we find ourselves as a country, Mr. Speaker, we are ready to debate this message now. However, Mr. Speaker, as has been the practice, members would want to prepare. And I noticed that the minority leader was jotting down a lot of notes. I need to remind him that I have with me the 2014, 2013, and the 2016 State of the Nation Address. And all of these were full of lamentations. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what he was actually jotting down. But if it was a debate he was preparing for, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure him that we will face him with this optimism and remind him of the lamentations of 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016.
Mr. Speaker, the Hansard will record me today. Mr. Speaker, the unemployment situation in our country is at a critical point. Yet, we did not hear a word from our president on this matter. Mr. Speaker, out of 33 million population, only 11.3 million are employed. This number includes peasant farmers. Mr. Speaker, the difference between the 33 million and 11.3 million is what I call ninja. No income, no jobs, no assets. I am shocked to the marrow to have noticed that our president, following the recent ministerial reshuffle, has increased the size of his government. Mr. Speaker, today we have a Minister of Finance Domestic and a Minister of Finance International.
In your election headquarters this morning, the NDC says their choice of a running mate for John Dramani Mahama will be shocking as the flag bearer presents his choice of running mate to the party for consideration by the highest decision-making bodies of the NDC for consideration and subsequent announcement. A statement signed by the party's General Secretary indicates the timelines for the NEC meeting. Deputy General Secretary of the party, Mustapha Gbande, says their choice of candidate will come as a shock to many.
The choice of the flag bearer is right, but it has to go through the rank and file of the party to ensure that the party structures make inputs as to who is best suited for the season and the time that we are in. Can the president complement the president in the difficult time that we are in, given the way this economy has been mismanaged? We have to consider a lot of factors, regional balances, and all of that. And so the party will definitely have a say when it comes to who we settle for a running mate. It is not, even though it's a prerogative of the president or the flag bearer, the party has a say, and that is what we are going to do in the next few days.
So therefore, council can take a decision to reject all the names?
We can take a decision to reject everyone and choose Mustapha Gbande as the running mate to play His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
Let's speak to the man himself, Mustapha Gbande, for more on this. Welcome to the program. What should Guineans expect?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Let me first of all set the record right that when you give the narrative that Mustapha says the running mate will shock Ghanaians, I have not said so. And it gives room, particularly in an environment where people will always misdirect content of what others say. It's important we set the record straight that What I said is that the naming of the running mate will stand to complement the vision, focus, and direction of the flag bearer as well as the party. There are key things that lead to the preparedness, readiness of a party to be termed as being serious to take up the mantle of a nation. One has to do with the solidity and the strength of the political party.
Right.
The strength of the candidate or the leader of that party in terms of the candidates they are presenting, be it parliamentary and be it presidential. In the case of the NDC, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the running mate. Then we look at the message of the party in terms of its vision and focus. And so the only obstacle for us to put ourselves in that spectacle of, or that spectrum of the three-way indicators I mentioned is for us to name the running mate. So I was happy that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama have reached that conclusion where it has to come to the level of the party for ratification and consideration so that we finally outdoor the candidate that will complement the flag bearer.
Mustafa, is Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman likely to be the candidate to complement John Mahama once again?
A lot of people have expressed interest, and the party is looking at a lot of other people to be possibly running mates. At that level, even if it is Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman,
right,
I know that she is one among the list that possesses all the qualities that Ghanaians require and who will be qualified as a competent vice president at the time we find ourselves.
Right.
The most important quality the person should have is credibility, sincerity, and honesty. We've had a situation in the past where one was sold to us as a whiz-kid of economy. He knows everything under the earth and the sun about economy, but under him, we have the worst economy. So it means that you don't necessarily have to be an economist to be a vice president. You don't have to be an accountant to be a vice president. But when you say that I will protect the public purse, it should not be the reverse where Ghanaians are now chasing a certain government to collect the purse because they themselves have stolen the purse. So the opposite is what we intend to do, focusing on one credibility,
right, and
the ability and the structure of the person to complement the credentials and focus of the candidate. And so I believe that Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman does not fall short of those credentials, much as all other individuals who are in the race that will be put before National Executive Committee for consideration. And I believe that the party have gone through all the process to shortlist some names that will be looked at. And all of those individuals are very competent. They will be looked not just on grounds of tribe, not just on grounds of religion, but having what it takes to confront the challenges that face our nation head on with the president. A person who stands shoulder to shoulder with the president and takes responsibility of whether or not they have messed up or whether or not they have done well. Not one that runs from a blame and take credit for when a good thing is done, but one that will be honest about the situation is what Ghanaians require at this moment.
Mustafa Gbande, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Let's stay a while with the NDC because the flag bearer of the party, John Mahama, has assured nurses and teachers of regulating their migration by securing contracts with countries in need of their service. By this policy, institutions responsible for training of the professionals will increase intake for surpluses to be exported. The former president explains these professionals will return to the country following the expiration of their contracts. Nanaya Ojimak toured the Savannah region with John Mahama, where the intended policy was explained.
2023, the Ministry of Health revealed approximately 2,000 nurses employed in the state and mission health facilities in Ghana left the country. About 1,400 nurses worked within the Ghana Health Service, while the remaining 600 were employed in facilities associated with the Christian Health Association of Ghana. Management of many health facilities in the country continue to lose staff on daily basis. According to John Mahama, the country holds a chance in the export of health workers to other countries on fixed contract basis.
We want to increase the production of health workers and nurses, and we will employ them to work for us as many as we can. But at the same time, we will sign agreements with other countries where we can post our nurses and health workers to go and work on fixed contracts and come back. And so under the Ministry of Employment, we will have a unit that is able to recruit nurses, make sure they are of the standard that they can work in international hospitals, and we will send them to go and work maybe for 4 years, 5 years, and then you come back. But we will produce more so that we can also give them automatic employment in our own country.
In sustaining the policy, there is the need for adequate nurses to be trained for local health facilities and for exports. Mr. Mahama reveals the quota system in the training colleges will be eliminated for more people to be trained.
And so that is the reason why we have to open up the numbers. Because right now they are quotas. If you go to a nursing training college, they have capacity to employ more, but the government has said don't employ more than this number because it's only this number we can take. It's the same with teacher trainees. You go to the training colleges, the colleges of education, they have capacity to take more. There was one of the colleges, more than 2,000 people applied, and they could take only 300. And so the remaining 1,700 will have to sit at home.
Meanwhile, he indicated the policy will be extended to cover teachers as demands for their expertise continue to soar across the world.
We could send them to go and teach outside, depending on the subject they do, English, chemistry. There are places where people are looking for chemistry teachers, physics teachers, general science teachers, and so on and so forth. And so we are not going to cap the numbers. We will open up so that anybody who is qualified to be able to train will have the opportunity to train. We'll employ as many as we can in our schools and in our hospitals. The excess, we will sign contracts with other countries. We will send you to go and work for 4 years. You go and earn dollars, you buy your car, you come back.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
From the Savannah region, let's head to the Central region where displaced squatters, mostly Liberian refugees, have taken over classrooms in Budumburam area in the region following the demolition of their structures by the Gomuafete Traditional Authority. A notice to demolish the camp in 2021 was put on hold following the intervention by the Refugee Board. According to the local assembly, the camp has become a settlement and now bears the infamous credential as a hideout for social deviants, including alleged robbery gangs. But last night, the assembly started the demolition exercise affecting over 2,000 people.
We don't know. We have just got a school, or we're going to go to a school.
Even the school self say,
Even when we put the school, they were not so easy. The principal, they all got annoyed, and we said, "Oh, there's nowhere we can go." When crisis come, we look at a church and a school. They will run for safety. They said, "We have come to the school here."
So you this kind?
Yes, of course, yes. Imagine we have been almost 33 years since the Civil War. You have not done nothing to reset us, nothing of that nature. At the present, we find our own food. When I find my own food, why is that more inflate pins on me? Break the place I'm living.
I don't even know where I'm going right now. See my machine outside. No notification. Just daybreak, they say they're coming to break our places. So nowhere to go. We don't know where we're going to do. That's our problem right now. You people see what we're doing right now. We don't even know what we're doing. That's the problem.
I don't know if na ground say I sleep, but God grace, if I get up, then I, if I not get up, then I. So I don't get nothing to say.
So where are you going to pass the night? Where will you be sleeping?
Now the one I talking say I don't know if na ground I sleep, God make I wake up, then if I not wake up, I tell God thank you. Because I don't know how to say.
Right, let's have a conversation on the back of this and get on the telephone lines and speak to the DC for Gomua East, Solomon Dako-Kwam. Solomon, welcome to the program. Yes, you did put your 2021 demolition on hold, but with the latest one that you went ahead to do, did you give prior notice to the people?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Uncle JP. Yes. Our 2021 exercise was put on hold, and it's rightly so, as you said. What is going on currently is not from the assembly. You will recall a week or so ago, some chiefs, Pete and Budumbram, suddenly came up in a press conference expressing their dissatisfaction and disappointment in myself and my assembly and virtually everybody for deceiving them since the last 3 years that we're going to do that demolition, and for which we have failed. And so they said that they were going to carry on themselves, and therefore they don't want any of us to even intervene. So that was it. All I can say for now is that, indeed, the matter is above me, so it's currently at the Regional Security Council. Yesterday, we held another meeting on it, and today, too, we are going. Indeed, they have thrown invitation to the chief in question to as it were, halt whatever they are doing away and come for some roundtable discussion this afternoon by 2 o'clock. So I'm sure by close of today I can have some definite something to tell you.
Mr. Dako-Kwam, I want to find out from you, with the over 2,000 people that are displaced, is there any temporary shelter available for them?
Currently, I cannot assure that. And maybe from the regional security meeting, if something comes up, I will let you know. But like I said, what is going on there is not an exercise by the assembly. So, of course, I couldn't have prearranged any such place for them. But I must actually add that I heard the interview you were running with some of the affected people who say they have taken over the school. But frankly speaking, even 2021, when we were doing the thing, the UNHCR indicated that all Liberians who were of concern to the UNHCR were being asked to move to Amping. So I doubt how people can move to the school and just take over the school. That it's for them and those things. But the respect, I'm sure, will give some directives in that regard for all those things.
Solomon Dako-Kwam, thank you very much for your time this morning. He's the DCE for Gomua East.
Thank you too for your thank you.
We return from the break with the latest in business. Stay tuned.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The Bank of Ghana has revised the balance and transaction limits of customers' mobile money wallets effective the 1st of March this year. A statement from the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications explained the development is in line with increasing trends of transactional activities and evolving customer needs. Here's more in this report.
On daily transaction limits, customers with a minimum account, which initially had a limit of 2,000 cedis has been upgraded to 3,000 cedis, while medium account with the current limit of 10,000 cedis has been increased to 15,000 cedis. On the same line, an enhanced account with a 15,000 cedis threshold has been reviewed to 25,000 cedis daily. A minimum account, which initially had a limit of 3,000 cedis, has been reviewed to 5,000 cedis, while medium accounts with a current limit of 25,000 cedis has been increased to 40,000 cedis. The enhanced account with a 50,000 cedis threshold has been reviewed upwards to 75,000 cedis. On the breakdown of the review of monthly transaction limits, minimum account, which initially had a limit of 6,000 cedis, has been reviewed to 9,000 cedis. The medium account, which had no limits on the value of monthly transactions, remained unchanged, as well as the enhanced account, which had no limits on the value of monthly transactions, remains unchanged.
Now, international tech company Yango has signed a partnership deal with mobile phone company Tecno to provide quality services to customers of both companies, particularly commuters who use the ride-hailing app. The following report has more.
In its ceremony brought together operators of ride-hailing services such as drivers, commuters, as well as officials from Yango and Tecno. Speaking at the ceremony in Accra, the general manager of Yango Ghana, Tom Ofonime, said the development shows a desire to improve the country's transport sector through the use of technology.
Provide access and better smartphone penetration for a tech company like we have so people can experience our product. This is why we partnered with a giant company like Tecno to be able to provide access to smartphones through their pay-as-you-go program. We believe that this is going to be an opportunity for not just customers, not just partners, but also the drivers to be able to access our technology through the giant flagship technology that Tecno has.
On this part, the regional retail manager of Tecno Ghana, Kingsley Boabin, underscored the need to focus on technology to create more jobs in the transport sector.
We can clearly look at the ride-hailing industry. Yango is a force to reckon with, and it's very huge in the ride-hailing industry. And as a mobile company, we are looking for innovative ways to also sell. So once they got the idea of a partnership, I believe we are going to be able to sell more while serving the needs of drivers and those who want to do the ride-hailing business. So I believe it's a win-win situation for both brands, both Yango and Tecno.
And that's it for this segment. The news continues after the break.
Hello again. In the third part of our series on the struggles of the National Health Insurance Scheme, we take you to the Bono East region, where some subscribers of the scheme are lamenting how they are compelled to pay for almost every service rendered them. The situation, the subscribers say, has dashed their hopes in a scheme many thought will help alleviate their suffering. Anas Sabit has today's feature from the Bono East region.
To see that the policy has ended up this way. Because I can't remember those days. We used even to criticize the policy in a way that, when people go for labor, they don't pay anything. And somewhere along the line, we're even criticizing that there will be high dependency ratio because of that. So the poor were really benefiting at the initial stage of it. But today, it is no more like that. I can say most poor people die accidentally because they cannot patronize certain things.
Naomi Dia was a subscriber of the NHIS policy before she decided to opt out. She recounts how some hospital administrators in the Pro East district keyed in drugs covered by the scheme, only for her to be told to buy the medicine from outside the facility.
I experienced something like that in precisely Yeji, but I wouldn't mention the name of the hospital. They queue in, all right, but the prescription was given to me at the store to go out and buy the drug. So in this way, are you not duping the state? It goes back into individual pockets.
This gentleman here, who asked to be interviewed on anonymity, says the scheme is worse off today as subscribers of the NHIA are made to pay for almost every service provided by the various health facilities.
Oh, I think it's getting bad because the last time I visited the hospital, they asked me to even pay for the card they gave me because it was my first time going to that hospital, and they asked me to pay for the card, and which I think that one is free always. But I was shocked when they asked me to pay for the card before even seeing the doctor. So I think it's getting worse.
Mariam Alassan's kid brother is currently on admission at one of the private hospitals in Tichiman. For 3 to 4 days, Mariam has been made to cough out nearly 1,600 cedis just to buy medicines for her brother who is currently on admission.
In my own experience, now, for the
past 4 days, I have a brother currently on admission, and insurance cannot cover a lab of even 15 Ghana cedis.
So far, 4 days, almost 6 million.
So far, we've spent almost 1,600 Ghana cedis. They'll ask you to go for medications, and when you get to the pharmacy, they will redirect you to the cashier, and if you don't pay, they won't attend to you.
The situation, according to Mariam, is leading to the death of many, particularly the poor, who cannot afford to pay for quality health care.
Today, if you go to the hospital and you have no money on you, that means you are going back home to die.
But what could be the major contributing factors to the recent underperformance of the NHIS? Some are of the view that corruption on the part of the various health facilities is largely to blame.
I think it's the health workers. That's what I will say, because the system is being corrupt. Everybody, when you get some opportunity, you want to use that opportunity to be a billionaire here in Ghana. So everybody should be blamed. That's what I think.
I normally tell people that all Ghanaians are potential armed robbers. We are bound to dupe the state at any point in time. So I think our hospital administrators, the PROs of the policy, and some doctors in the state, they have rendered the policy irrelevant, and the policy has failed due to those people's behavior.
The situation isn't any different in the rural settings, where some subscribers say the collapse of the scheme is pushing them into resorting to self-medications.
The news team returns at midday with Joy News today. My name is Kenneth Jesse. See you soon.